Maya, I'm sorry, I can't do this.
What do you mean you can't do this? Daniel, the ceremony is starting. Where are you?
I'm not coming.
What? No, you can't be serious. We've been together for 6 years.
I know. But I'm not ready for marriage.
You're telling me this 5 minutes before our wedding?
I'm sorry, Maya.
Daniel, please, don't do this to me.
I can't.
Daniel!
Maya, sweetheart, where is Daniel?
He's not coming. He said he's not ready.
Not ready? After 6 years together?
6 years, Dad. And he couldn't even tell me this to my face.
My child.
Everyone is waiting. What am I supposed to do now?
Excuse me.
Yes?
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think there's something you need to hear.
Who are you?
My name is Joshua.
Welcome to Nenya Folktales, where every story teaches you about betrayal, karma, love, and life lessons. If you love emotional stories with crazy twists, subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss a new story every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday by 8 p.m. Now, let's get into today's story. The church was packed with more than 300 guests when Maya Thompson walked down the aisle alone. Not because she was supposed to, not because the groom was waiting for her at the altar, but because the man she had loved for 6 years had disappeared just minutes before their wedding ceremony. Maya's white wedding dress flowed behind her as she walked toward an altar decorated with hundreds of white roses. Her father, Raymond, stood proudly at the front. Her mother, Denise, was wiping tears of joy from her eyes. Everyone was smiling. Everyone except Maya, because 5 minutes earlier, her phone had received a message that shattered her entire world. "I'm sorry, Maya. I can't do this." That was it. No explanation, no phone call, no goodbye. 6 years together, 2 years engaged, hundreds of wedding invitations, months of planning, and now, nothing. Maya stopped halfway down the aisle. Her eyes searched the altar desperately, as though Daniel might suddenly appear and tell her this was all some terrible misunderstanding. But the space beside the altar remained empty. Her mother rushed toward her. "Maya, sweetheart, where's Daniel?" Maya couldn't speak. She simply handed her mother the phone. Denise read the message, and her face immediately changed. "Oh my God." Raymond noticed the expression on his wife's face and hurried over. "What's wrong?" Denise looked at him. "Daniel isn't coming." Raymond froze. "What do you mean he isn't coming?" Maya finally whispered. "He said he's not ready for marriage." Raymond stared at his daughter in disbelief. "Not ready? After 6 years?" Maya nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. 6 years, Dad." Around them, the whispers were getting louder. Guests were beginning to realize something was wrong. Some were looking toward the entrance. Others were quietly checking their phones. Maya could feel hundreds of eyes watching her. Her mother grabbed her hand. "Maya, let's go home. You don't have to face these people right now." Maya looked around the church. Her closest friends were there. Her relatives had traveled from different states. Some had spent thousands of dollars just to attend her wedding. She took a deep breath. "No, Mom." Denise shook her head. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do." Maya slowly walked toward the microphone. Her hands were shaking. She looked at the crowd and forced herself to smile. "My friends, my family, everyone who came here today." Her voice broke. She swallowed and continued. "I'm sorry. There will be no wedding today. Daniel has decided that he isn't ready for marriage." A painful silence filled the church. Someone in the front row began crying. Maya lowered her head. "I apologize to everyone who traveled to be here. I know you gave your time, your money, and your love to celebrate with us. I wish I had better news." She stepped away from the microphone, fighting to keep herself from breaking down completely. Her father put an arm around her. "Come on, sweetheart, let's go." But before Maya could take another step, a man's voice came from the back of the church. "Excuse me." Everyone turned. A tall black man was standing near the last pew. His coat was old and worn. His beard was untrimmed. His shoes were dusty and badly damaged. He looked completely out of place among the elegantly dressed wedding guests. Maya recognized him immediately. She had seen him around the neighborhood many times. His name was Elijah Brooks. For almost 3 years, Elijah had been living on the streets near the train station. Nobody knew much about him. He never begged. He rarely spoke. And every afternoon, he came to this church and sat quietly in the last pew. Father Michael allowed him to stay inside, especially when the weather was cold. Raymond immediately stepped in front of his daughter. "Sir, this isn't the time." Elijah nodded. "I know." "Then please leave." Elijah looked at Maya. "I apologize for interrupting your wedding." Raymond's expression hardened. "There is no wedding." Elijah nodded again. "I know." He turned to leave. Then he stopped. He looked back at Maya. "But I have something to say." Maya wiped her tears. "What?" Elijah took a few steps toward the altar. "You shouldn't have to leave this church believing that being abandoned means you're unwanted." The room became completely silent. Maya stared at him. "You're not unwanted, Miss Thompson." Her father frowned. "You don't know my daughter." Elijah nodded. "No, sir, I don't." He looked at Maya. "But I know what it feels like to believe you've lost everything." Maya's eyes remained fixed on him. Elijah continued. "I don't know why that man left you. Maybe he was afraid. Maybe he was confused. Maybe he has another reason. But whatever his reason is, it doesn't determine your worth." Raymond crossed his arms. "That's enough." Elijah nodded respectfully. "You're right." He started walking away. Then Maya spoke. "Wait." Elijah turned around. "What's your name?" "Elijah?" "Elijah what?" "Elijah Brooks." Maya studied him. "Why did you say that?" "Because I know what it feels like to be abandoned." Maya's expression softened. "What happened to you?" Elijah looked down for several seconds. "A lot. Tell me." Her father immediately interrupted. "Maya, you don't owe this man an explanation." "Dad, I just want to know." Elijah took a deep breath. 3 years ago, I had a home, a career, a wife, a family. Maya looked at him. "What happened?" "My wife, Renee, was diagnosed with cancer." The room became quiet again. "I spent everything trying to save her. Every dollar, every investment, everything I had." His voice became shaky. "But the treatment didn't work." Maya whispered. "I'm sorry." Elijah nodded. "She died 3 years ago." He looked toward the stained glass window. "After she died, I couldn't accept it. I started drinking. I lost my job. Then I lost my house. Eventually, I lost almost everyone who loved me." Maya stared at him. "And you've been living on the street ever since?" "Almost 3 years." Raymond shook his head. "Maya, this is exactly why we need to leave." But Maya wasn't listening. She had noticed something in Elijah's eyes. Pain. Real pain. "Why do you come to this church?" she asked. Elijah looked toward Father Michael. "Because this is where Renee and I got married." Maya looked at Father Michael. The priest nodded slowly. "It's true. Elijah has been coming here for months." Elijah continued. "I sit in the back because that's where Renee used to sit when we came here." Maya felt a strange sadness in her chest. What was her full name? Elijah looked at her. "Renee Brooks." Maya's eyes widened. "Where did she receive treatment?" "Mercy General Hospital." Maya suddenly became still. "The oncology ward." Elijah nodded. "Yes." Maya's heart began beating faster. "Was she cared for by a nurse named Carla?" Elijah shook his head. "No." Maya swallowed. "Was she cared for by a nurse named Maya Thompson?" Elijah stared at her. For several seconds he said nothing. Then his eyes widened. "You?" Maya nodded slowly. "I was her nurse." Elijah took a step forward. "You're the woman." Maya began crying. "I remember Renee." Elijah's voice trembled. "You stayed with her when I couldn't get there." "She was alone a lot," Maya whispered. "I couldn't leave her. She told me about you." Maya shook her head. "I didn't know who you were." "She said you held her hand when she was afraid." Maya wiped her tears. "I did. She said you made her laugh when she was in pain." Maya smiled through her tears. Renee was an incredible woman. Elijah looked at her as though he had suddenly found something he had lost years ago. She talked about you until the day she died. Maya covered her mouth. The man standing in front of her wasn't just a stranger. He was the husband of a woman she had cared for during the darkest days of her life. Then Elijah said something that made Maya's heart stop. "That's why I came here today." Maya looked at him. "Why?" Elijah pointed toward a chair near the entrance. "Someone dropped one of your wedding programs outside. I saw your name." Maya's eyes widened. "You came because of my wedding?" Elijah nodded. "I recognized your name. I knew I had to see the woman who made my wife's final days less painful." Maya stared at him. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want anything from you." He paused. "I only wanted to see you happy." Maya looked at the empty altar. "Well, I'm not." Elijah lowered his eyes. "I know." Then he said, "And I'm sorry." Maya looked at him. "You don't have to apologize." "I know." He took a breath. "But seeing you standing there alone reminded me of something." "What?" Elijah looked directly into her eyes. "Being abandoned doesn't mean you have to stay broken." Maya's tears fell again. Before she could answer, Raymond stepped forward. "That's enough. My daughter is coming home with us." Maya looked at her father. Then she looked at the empty altar. Then at Elijah. "No." Raymond stared at her. "What do you mean?" Maya took Elijah's hand. "I don't want to go home," her mother gasped. "Maya." Maya looked at Father Michael. "Can you marry us?" The entire church erupted in shocked whispers. Raymond's face went pale. "Absolutely not." Father Michael stared at Maya. "Are you certain?" Maya looked at Elijah. He immediately shook his head. "Maya, don't do this." She looked at him. "Why?" "Because you're hurt." "I am." "You're angry." "Yes." "You don't know me." Maya squeezed his hand. "Then we'll start there." Elijah shook his head. "I won't let you marry me. Because another man broke your heart." Maya looked directly into his eyes. "Then don't marry me." "Because he left." She paused. "Marry me because you stayed." The church went silent. Father Michael looked between them. Then he slowly stepped forward. "Before anyone makes a decision, I think we need to hear the truth." Elijah nodded. "That's fair." Father Michael looked at him. "Elijah, are you legally free to marry?" "Yes." "Any living spouse?" "No." "Any legal barriers?" "No." Father Michael turned toward Maya. "And you?" Maya took a deep breath. "My engagement is over." Father Michael nodded. "Then perhaps we should talk before we proceed." But at that exact moment, the church doors suddenly opened. Everyone turned. Daniel was standing there, and beside him was a young black woman with tears in her eyes and one hand resting protectively over her pregnant belly. Maya's face went completely pale. Daniel looked at her. "Maya," her father stepped forward. "You have some nerve coming back here." Daniel looked terrified. "Please, let me explain." Maya stared at the pregnant woman. "Who is she?" Daniel swallowed. "Her name is Lauren." Maya's heart sank. "And why is she here?" Daniel looked at the floor. "Because she called me last night." The pregnant woman began crying. Daniel finally whispered, "She says I'm the father of her baby." The church fell completely silent. Maya stared at the man who had abandoned her just minutes before her wedding. Now she finally understood why. But what Daniel didn't know was that the woman he had just left standing at the altar was no longer standing alone. Daniel looked at Maya, his face filled with panic. "Maya, please, let me explain." Maya didn't move. She stared at the pregnant woman beside him. "So, that's why you left me?" Daniel swallowed. "I didn't know what to do." Maya laughed bitterly. "You didn't know what to do, so you decided to disappear 5 minutes before our wedding. I was scared." "You were scared?" Maya's voice rose. "You had 6 years to be scared. You had 2 years of engagement to tell me the truth." Daniel stepped closer. "I didn't know if the baby was mine." Maya stared at him. "And instead of trusting me enough to tell me, you ran?" "I panicked." "You didn't panic, Daniel. You made a choice." The pregnant woman lowered her head. Maya, I'm sorry. Maya looked at her. What's your name? Lauren. Lauren, I'm not angry with you. Maya took a breath. You didn't promise me anything. He did. Daniel looked toward Elijah, who was standing quietly beside Maya. And who's he? Maya looked at Elijah. His name is Elijah. Daniel frowned. Why is he standing next to you? Maya answered calmly. Because when you left me alone, he didn't. Daniel looked at Elijah's worn clothes and laughed in disbelief. You can't be serious. Raymond immediately stepped between them. Watch your mouth. Daniel pointed toward Elijah. You're going to replace me with him? Maya looked at Daniel. Replace you? You abandoned your position yourself. Daniel's eyes filled with desperation. Maya, I love you. No, I do. If you loved me, you would have told me. Daniel shook his head. I was afraid you would leave. Maya stared at him. You were afraid I'd leave because another woman was carrying your child. Daniel looked away. He had no answer. Elijah finally spoke. Maybe you should give her the truth now. Daniel looked at him angrily. Stay out of this. Elijah nodded. You're right. This is between you and Maya. He stepped back. But she deserves honesty. Maya looked at Daniel. Is the baby yours? I don't know. Then why did you leave me? Daniel took a shaky breath. Because Lauren called me last night and told me she was 3 months pregnant. She said I was the father. And you believed her. I didn't know what to believe. So you ran. I panicked. Maya shook her head. You keep using that word as if it excuses everything. Lauren wiped her tears. Daniel, you need to tell her the whole truth. He looked at her. Lauren, please. No, she deserves to know. Maya's eyes narrowed. What else is there? Lauren looked at Daniel. Tell her when we were together. Maya's face changed. Together, Daniel immediately said. It was before you and I were engaged. Lauren shook her head. That's not what you told me. Maya looked between them. What exactly happened? Daniel lowered his head. Lauren was someone I dated years ago. How many years? 4. And when did you stop seeing her? Daniel didn't answer. Maya's voice became cold. Daniel, a few months before I proposed to you. Maya stared at him. A few months? Yes. So you were seeing her while we were together. It wasn't serious. Maya laughed in disbelief. You were cheating on me. I made a mistake. Maya closed her eyes. 6 years of memories suddenly felt like lies. Their first date, their vacations, the engagement. Every promise, every I love you. She opened her eyes again. You didn't leave me because you were confused. You left because you were afraid the truth would come out. Daniel shook his head. That's not fair. Fair? Maya pointed toward the wedding decorations. You know what's not fair? Standing in front of 300 people wearing a wedding dress, while the man I was supposed to marry is somewhere hiding because another woman is pregnant. Daniel looked at Elijah. And you're really going to marry this stranger because you're angry? Maya answered immediately. I'm not marrying him because I'm angry. She turned toward Elijah. I'm choosing him because he showed me something you never did. Daniel scoffed. What could a homeless man possibly show you? The room went silent. Elijah looked at Daniel, but didn't respond. Maya did. Humanity. Daniel's expression hardened. Maya, this is insane. Maybe it is. She looked toward Father Michael. But my entire life changed today. And maybe I need to stop being afraid of making unexpected choices. Father Michael raised his hand. Before anyone proceeds, I need everyone to understand something. Marriage isn't therapy for heartbreak. It isn't revenge. It isn't a reaction to humiliation. He looked at Maya. If you marry Elijah, it must be because you genuinely want him, not because you want Daniel to regret leaving. Maya nodded. I understand. Father Michael looked at Elijah. And you must understand that she barely knows you. Elijah nodded. I do. Then why are you willing to marry her? Elijah looked at Maya. Because I don't want to possess her. I want to stand beside her. Father Michael nodded. That's an important distinction. Maya looked at Elijah. Tell me something. If you had nothing to hide, why did you never tell me who you really were? Elijah hesitated. Because I don't know who I really am anymore. Maya frowned. What does that mean? Elijah looked at the floor. Before Renee died, I was different. How? I was successful, confident. I thought I could solve every problem with enough money and determination. He smiled sadly. Then cancer taught me that some things cannot be bought or controlled. Maya listened carefully. What did you do before? I worked in finance. Raymond looked surprised. Finance? Elijah nodded. I was a financial strategist. Daniel laughed. And now you're homeless. Elijah looked at him. Yes. And Daniel shook his head. Exactly. Maya turned to Elijah. Why did you lose everything? Because when Renee got sick, I spent everything I had trying to save her. He paused. When she died, I couldn't handle it. I drank. I lost my job. I stopped paying my mortgage. Eventually, the bank took the house. Maya's expression softened. What about your family? I pushed them away. Why? Because I didn't want anyone seeing what I had become. Father Michael spoke quietly. Elijah has been coming here for almost 2 years. I've watched him fight his way back, one day at a time. Maya looked at him. Are you still drinking? Elijah shook his head. No. How long have you been sober? Almost 3 years. Raymond frowned. Then why are you still living on the streets? Elijah sighed. Because sobriety doesn't instantly restore a life. He looked at Maya. I had to learn how to live again before I could rebuild anything. Maya stared at him. And today? Today, I thought I was simply coming to see an old friend of my wife's. He smiled sadly. I never expected to leave married. A few guests laughed nervously. Maya smiled for the first time all day. But then Elijah became serious. Maya, I need you to understand something. What? If you decide not to marry me, I will understand. Why? Because I don't want to be the man you choose because you're hurt. Maya stepped closer. And if I choose you because I'm not hurt anymore? Elijah looked into her eyes. Then I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve that choice. Maya's eyes filled with tears. Daniel shook his head. Maya, listen to yourself. You've known this man for less than an hour. Maya looked at Daniel. And I've known you for 6 years. She paused. That's the problem. Daniel's face fell. Maya? She turned away. Father, I'm ready. Father Michael looked at her one more time. Are you absolutely certain? Maya nodded. Yes. Elijah? Yes. Father Michael stepped toward the altar. Then let's proceed. Maya and Elijah stood facing each other. The church became quiet. Father Michael began the ceremony. Elijah Brooks, do you take Maya Thompson as your wife? Elijah looked at Maya. I do. Do you promise to love her, respect her, support her, and stand beside her in sickness and health, in good times and bad? Elijah smiled softly. I promise something even greater. Father Michael looked at him. What? Elijah said. I promise that when life becomes difficult, I won't disappear. Maya's lips trembled. Elijah continued. I promise that when I'm afraid, I'll tell her. When I'm struggling, I'll tell her. When I don't know what to do, I'll stay and figure it out with her. Maya began crying. I do, she whispered. Father Michael turned to her. Maya Thompson, do you take Elijah Brooks as your husband? Maya looked at Elijah. I do. Do you promise to love him, respect him, and stand beside him in sickness and health, in wealth and poverty? Maya smiled through her tears. I promise to see the person beneath the circumstances. Elijah's eyes filled with tears. I promise to remember that the man standing in front of me today is more important than the man he used to be. Father Michael smiled. Then, by the authority vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. The guests erupted in applause. Elijah leaned toward Maya. Are you sure? Maya whispered. Ask me tomorrow. They both laughed. Then Elijah kissed his bride. But just as the guests began celebrating, a man in an expensive black suit stood at the back of the church. He had been watching everything in silence. Elijah saw him and immediately froze. Maya noticed. "Who is that?" Elijah didn't answer. The man slowly walked toward them. "Elijah." Elijah's face went pale. "Marcus." Maya looked confused. "You know him?" The man stopped in front of Elijah. "I've been looking for you for 3 years." Elijah lowered his head. "You shouldn't be here." Marcus looked at Maya. "So this is her." Elijah's eyes widened. "What are you talking about?" Marcus smiled. "The woman you married today." Maya looked between them. "Who are you?" Marcus extended his hand. "My name is Marcus Brooks." Maya stared at him. "Brooks?" Marcus nodded. "Elijah's younger brother." Maya looked at Elijah. "You have a brother?" Elijah sighed. "I have a family." Marcus corrected him. "You have a family that never stopped loving you." Elijah looked away. Marcus stepped closer. "Mom is still alive. Your sister is still waiting for you. Your nephew asks about you every Christmas." Elijah's eyes filled with tears. "I wasn't ready." Marcus nodded. "We know." Then Marcus looked at Maya. "But there's something else you need to know." Maya frowned. "What?" Marcus took a breath. Elijah didn't lose everything. Maya stared at him. "What do you mean?" Elijah immediately said, "Marcus, don't." But Marcus continued. 3 years ago, when Elijah's father died, he left him control of a family investment company. Maya's eyes widened. "How much?" Marcus looked at Elijah. "Enough to change thousands of lives." The church went silent again. Maya slowly turned toward her new husband. "Elijah, what aren't you telling me?" Elijah looked at her, and for the first time that day, she saw fear in his eyes. "Maya, I can explain." "Then explain." Elijah took a deep breath. "I didn't tell you, because I wanted you to know me before you knew my money." Maya stared at him. "How much money?" Elijah looked down. "A lot." Marcus answered for him. "Millions." Daniel, who had been standing near the back, suddenly laughed bitterly. "You have got to be kidding me." Maya ignored him. She only looked at Elijah. "Why didn't you tell me?" Elijah stepped closer. "Because when Renee died, money became the only thing people wanted to talk about. Everyone treated me differently when they knew what I had. I needed to know if anyone could see me without it." Maya's eyes filled with tears. "And today," Elijah smiled, "today, you chose me when you thought I had nothing." Maya stared at him, but she didn't yet know that Elijah's money wasn't even the biggest secret he had been hiding, because the fortune he was about to inherit had been frozen for 3 years, and there was one condition that could determine whether he would ever receive a single dollar of it. The church remained silent after Marcus revealed that Elijah's inheritance had been frozen for 3 years. Maya stared at her husband, trying to understand how the man who had been sleeping on the streets could possibly have millions waiting for him. "Elijah, what does he mean by a condition?" Elijah looked at Marcus. "You didn't have to tell her tonight." Marcus shook his head. "She's your wife now. She deserves to know everything." Maya gently touched Elijah's arm. "He's right. I need to know." Elijah took a deep breath. "My father left me control of Brooks Financial Group when he died. The company owns several investment firms and commercial properties across the Midwest." Maya's eyes widened. "And you're the owner?" "Technically, yes, but I haven't had control for 3 years," Marcus explained. "After Renee died, Elijah became unable to manage the company. He was drinking heavily and making dangerous financial decisions. The family court placed his assets under a temporary trust." Maya looked at Elijah. "So you're not actually rich right now?" "No." "How much is the inheritance worth?" Elijah hesitated. "About $22 million, when everything was frozen." A murmur spread through the church. Daniel laughed under his breath. "Unbelievable." Maya turned toward him. "What's funny?" Daniel shook his head. "Nothing." "No, say it. You just married a millionaire." Maya's expression hardened. "I married a man. His money had nothing to do with it." Elijah looked at her with gratitude. "That's exactly why I didn't tell you." Marcus stepped closer. There's more. Elijah sighed. Marcus. She needs to hear it. Maya looked between them. What else? Marcus said. The court will decide next week whether Elijah gets full control of his inheritance. Maya looked at Elijah. What happens if they say no? I lose control of the company permanently. And the money? Most of it stays in the trust. Maya frowned. Why would they deny you? Elijah looked down. Because the court needs proof that I'm capable of managing it again. And what proof do they need? Marcus answered. 5 years of continuous sobriety, psychological evaluations, employment records, and evidence that Elijah can responsibly manage his personal life. Maya looked at her husband. How long have you been sober? 4 years and 11 months. Maya's eyes widened. You're 1 month away. Elijah nodded. 1 month. Then why are you still living on the streets? Elijah gave a sad smile. Because I didn't want to go back to the life I had before I was ready. I had to rebuild myself first. Maya looked at him for a long moment. So, you could become a millionaire again in 1 month, if the court approves it. And you never told me. Because I didn't want you to think I married you for money. Maya shook her head. You didn't marry me for money. How can you be sure? Because I thought you had nothing. Elijah smiled. Exactly. Suddenly, Marcus's phone rang. He answered it and walked a few steps away. His expression changed. When he returned, he looked serious. What's wrong? Elijah asked. Marcus lowered his voice. The court hearing has been moved. To when? Tomorrow morning. Elijah froze. Tomorrow? Marcus nodded. The judge wants to review your case immediately. Maya looked at Elijah. Why? Marcus hesitated. Someone filed a complaint challenging your sobriety. Elijah's face changed. Who? Marcus looked toward Daniel. Daniel immediately raised his hands. Don't look at me. Elijah shook his head. I didn't say anything. Marcus continued. The complaint claims that Elijah has resumed drinking and that he is mentally unstable. Maya stared at her husband. That's a lie. Elijah looked confused. Who would file something like that? Marcus handed him the document. Elijah read it silently. His face became pale. Maya watched him. Elijah? He handed her the paper. Maya read the accusation. The complaint claimed Elijah had been seen drinking alcohol several times during the past month. It also claimed he had made threats against people who tried to help him. Maya looked up. This isn't true. Elijah shook his head. No. Who signed this? Marcus pointed to the bottom of the document. Maya read the name. Robert Hayes. Elijah closed his eyes. I knew it. Who is Robert? The man who has been managing my company while I was gone. Marcus nodded. He's the temporary trustee. Maya frowned. Why would he lie? Elijah looked at her. Because if the court restores my control, he loses his position. Maya's expression hardened. So he has something to gain. A lot, Marcus added. Robert has been collecting management fees from the trust for 3 years. If Elijah gets control back, those fees disappear. Maya looked at Elijah. Then we fight it. Elijah shook his head. I don't want to fight anyone. You don't have to fight him. You just have to tell the truth. Elijah looked at her. What if the judge doesn't believe me? Maya squeezed his hand. Then we'll prove it. Father Michael stepped closer. And you won't be doing it alone. Elijah looked around the church. His family was there. Maya was beside him. Father Michael was standing behind them. For the first time in years, Elijah didn't feel alone. But Daniel wasn't finished. He walked toward Maya. Can I talk to you? Maya looked at him. About what? About us. Maya shook her head. There is no us. Maya, please. Daniel, you're getting married to Lauren. He looked surprised. How did you know? You made your choice. I haven't decided anything. You should. Daniel lowered his voice. I still love you. Maya looked at him with sadness rather than anger. You don't love me, Daniel. You miss having access to me. He shook his head. That's not true. Then why did you come back? Daniel looked away. Because when I saw you with him, I realized what I lost. Maya shook her head. You realized what you lost when another man was willing to stand where you ran away from. Daniel looked at Elijah. You really trust him? Maya answered. More than I trust you. Daniel's face fell. Maya, goodbye, Daniel. Daniel walked away. Lauren followed him. Before leaving, she looked at Maya. I'm sorry. Maya nodded. I know. After they left, Elijah looked at Maya. You didn't have to defend me. Yes, I did. Why? Maya smiled. Because you're my husband. Elijah looked at her, as though the word still surprised him. Husband. Maya laughed softly. Don't get used to it too quickly. He smiled. Too late. The next morning, Maya and Elijah arrived at the courthouse with Marcus. The hearing room was packed. Robert Hayes sat at the front with two attorneys. He looked confident. Elijah's attorney leaned toward him. Stay calm. Tell the truth. The judge entered. Everyone stood. After everyone sat, the judge looked at Elijah. Mr. Brooks, your trustee has raised serious concerns regarding your ability to manage your inheritance. Elijah nodded. I understand. Robert's attorney stood. Your Honor, my client believes Mr. Brooks has not demonstrated the stability necessary to control a $22 million estate. The judge looked at Elijah. Do you deny the allegations? Completely. Do you have evidence? Elijah looked at Maya. She nodded. Marcus stood. Your Honor, we have 4 years and 11 months of medical records, counseling records, employment records, and independent sobriety tests. Robert's attorney shook his head. Records can be manipulated. The judge frowned. Do you have evidence that Mr. Brooks has relapsed? We have witnesses. One by one, people were called to testify. A former shelter worker said Elijah had been sober. A counselor confirmed he had attended weekly meetings. Father Michael testified that Elijah had been coming to church for years and had never shown signs of relapse. Then Maya was called. She walked to the witness stand. Robert's attorney approached her. Mrs. Brooks, how long have you known my client? Maya answered honestly. I met him yesterday. Several people in the courtroom laughed. The attorney smiled. So you barely know him. I know enough to recognize honesty. How can you possibly know whether he's sober? Maya looked at the attorney. I can't know everything about a person after one day. The attorney smiled. Exactly. Maya continued. But I can tell you what I saw. I saw a man who had every reason to take advantage of my pain. But instead, he protected me. I saw a man who was insulted because of his appearance, but never insulted anyone back. I saw a man who could have lied about his wealth, but chose not to tell me because he wanted me to know him without money. The courtroom became quiet. And I saw a man who lost his wife, his home, his career, and almost everyone he loved, but somehow managed to keep his compassion. Robert's attorney looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Brooks, you said you met him yesterday. Yes. Then how can you make such statements? Maya smiled. Because sometimes you can know more about a person's character in one difficult hour than in 5 comfortable years. Elijah looked down, trying to hide his emotions. Then Robert himself took the stand. His attorney asked him, why do you believe Elijah should not regain control? Robert answered, because I don't believe he's stable. Why? He disappeared for 3 years. He has no permanent residence. He has no current employment. And now, suddenly, he gets married to a woman he met yesterday. The judge looked at Elijah. Robert continued, Your Honor, I believe Mr. Brooks is making impulsive decisions. Maya's eyes narrowed. The attorney sat down. The judge looked at Elijah. Mr. Brooks, would you like to respond? Elijah stood. Yes, Your Honor. He walked toward the witness stand. Everything Mr. Hayes said is true. Maya looked surprised. Elijah continued. I did disappear. I did lose everything. I did make terrible decisions. And yes, I married Maya after meeting her yesterday. The courtroom murmured. But none of that means I am the same man I was 3 years ago. He looked directly at the judge. When my wife died, I broke. I thought being strong meant pretending I wasn't hurting. I was wrong. He paused. I spent years punishing myself for surviving her. His voice cracked. I thought if I lost everything, maybe I would somehow be paying for the fact that I couldn't save her. The courtroom was silent, but eventually I realized Renee wouldn't have wanted me to die with her. She would have wanted me to live. Maya wiped a tear from her eye. Elijah continued, I don't want my father's money because I want a luxurious life. I want it because I know what it feels like to lose everything. And if I get control of those assets, I want to use them to help people who are standing where I once stood. Robert's attorney stood. Are you suggesting you want to give away your inheritance? Elijah looked at him. Not give it away. Use it responsibly. How? Elijah looked at Maya. My wife and I want to create a foundation. The judge raised an eyebrow. A foundation? Maya nodded. Elijah continued. A foundation for families dealing with cancer, addiction recovery, homelessness, and sudden financial hardship. Robert laughed. Your Honor, this is exactly what concerns us. He's making huge financial plans immediately after getting married. Elijah looked at him. No, I'm making plans I've been thinking about for years. Then something unexpected happened. The courthouse doors opened. A middle-aged black woman entered, carrying a folder. She walked directly toward Elijah. Excuse me. Elijah turned. His face changed. Mrs. Carter? The woman nodded. I need to tell the court something. The judge looked at her. Who are you? She looked at Elijah. I was Renee Brooks's hospice nurse. Elijah's eyes filled with tears. You? She nodded. I cared for Renee during her final week. Maya stared at her. Do you remember me? The woman smiled. Of course I do. She looked at Maya. You were the nurse who refused to leave Renee alone. Maya began crying. The woman opened her folder. Before Renee died, she asked me to keep something safe. Elijah looked confused. What? The woman handed him an envelope. She told me to give this to you if you ever found your way back. Elijah's hands trembled. Why didn't you give it to me before? Because I couldn't find you. Elijah opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter. He unfolded it slowly. His eyes moved across the page. Then he began crying. Maya put her hand over his. What does it say? Elijah couldn't speak. The hospice nurse answered. Renee wrote that she knew you were going to blame yourself for her death. She wanted you to know that she never blamed you. Elijah covered his face. The judge lowered his voice. Mr. Brooks, take your time. Elijah read the final lines again. Then he whispered, She said she wanted me to live. Maya wrapped her arms around him. And for the first time since Renee's death, Elijah finally allowed himself to cry in front of other people. But while the courtroom watched Elijah grieve, Robert Hayes quietly received a text message. His expression changed. He quickly stood and walked toward the hallway. Marcus noticed him. Where are you going? Robert ignored him. Marcus followed. And what Marcus discovered in that hallway would expose a secret far bigger than anyone expected. Robert wasn't only trying to keep Elijah's inheritance. He had been secretly transferring millions of dollars from the family trust into accounts controlled by someone else. And now, with Elijah finally back, his entire scheme was about to collapse. Elijah stared at the envelope in Denise Carter's hands. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Maya stood beside him, sensing that whatever was inside that envelope could change everything they had worked so hard to rebuild. What's in there? Elijah finally asked. Denise looked at him sadly. A letter your father wrote before he died. Elijah's hands trembled as he accepted it. Why didn't you give this to me before? Denise lowered her eyes. Because I was afraid. Your father asked me to keep it safe until you were ready to hear the truth. Elijah opened the envelope. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was his father's. My son, if you're reading this, then I've failed to tell you something important while I was alive. Elijah swallowed hard. Maya placed her hand on his shoulder. He continued reading. I knew you would eventually inherit the company, but I also knew there were people around me who were not loyal to our family. One of them has been secretly moving money from the company for years. I discovered it shortly before my death. Elijah looked up. Who? Denise pointed to the next page. Elijah continued reading. I suspected Robert Hayes, but I could not prove everything before my health failed. There is another person involved, someone you trust completely. Elijah's face went pale. Who? Maya whispered. He kept reading. If anything happens to me, do not confront anyone until you have the complete evidence. The evidence is hidden in the old house, behind the fireplace in my study. Elijah looked at Marcus. The old house. Marcus immediately understood. Dad's house? Elijah nodded. We have to go there. Denise stopped him. There's more. She pointed to the letter. Elijah continued reading. The person closest to you has been helping move money through several shell companies. I believe they are responsible for millions of dollars disappearing from the family business. I wanted to expose them, but I became sick before I could finish. Elijah lowered the letter. Why would someone do this? Denise looked at him. Greed, Maya asked. Who did he trust? Denise hesitated. Your father's financial advisor. Elijah's eyes widened. Anthony? Denise shook her head. No, someone else. Elijah suddenly remembered a name from his childhood. Gerald. Marcus looked at him. Gerald Brooks? Elijah nodded. Gerald was their father's longtime business partner, and one of the people Elijah had trusted most before his life fell apart. They rushed to the old family house. The place had been empty for years. Dust covered the furniture. Maya walked beside Elijah as they entered his father's study. Elijah approached the fireplace. He ran his fingers along the stone. Here. Marcus helped him move a heavy wooden panel. Behind it was a small metal box. Elijah pulled it out. His hands shook as he opened it. Inside were bank records, contracts, photographs, and a small flash drive. Maya looked at him. Your father was building a case. Elijah nodded. Marcus picked up one of the documents. His eyes widened. Elijah? What? Look at this. Elijah took the document. It showed transfers from the family company to several shell corporations. The names were different, but one address appeared repeatedly. Elijah recognized it immediately. That's Gerald's office. Marcus shook his head. So Gerald was the person behind everything. Elijah looked at the documents. And Robert was only helping him. Maya asked. Why would Robert risk everything for Gerald? Marcus answered. Because Gerald promised him control of the company once Elijah lost his inheritance. Elijah's face hardened. They planned this. Maya took his hand. What are you going to do? Elijah looked at her. The right thing. They took the evidence to the authorities and the company's legal team. Within weeks, an investigation began. Gerald was arrested for fraud and embezzlement. Robert agreed to cooperate with investigators in exchange for a reduced sentence. The audit revealed that more than $8 million had been stolen from the company over several years. But the investigation uncovered something even more important. Gerald had manipulated Elijah's grief after Renee died. He had encouraged Elijah's drinking and isolation because he knew a broken Elijah would be easier to control. Elijah sat silently when he heard that. Maya squeezed his hand. Don't blame yourself. I should have seen it. You were grieving. I trusted him. Trusting someone isn't a weakness. Elijah looked at her. Then what is? Maya smiled, refusing to learn from what happened. Elijah nodded slowly. Then I'm learning. Months passed. The company was restored to Elijah's control. The stolen money was recovered. The Brooks family businesses continued to grow, but Elijah changed the way they operated. He created employee assistance programs, addiction recovery benefits, emergency medical funds, and scholarships for children from struggling families. Maya became the director of the company's healthcare initiative. Together, they expanded the Renee Brooks Foundation into several states. What started as a tiny dream became a national organization helping thousands of families every year. But Elijah never forgot where he came from. Every month, he returned to the shelter where he had once slept. He sat with people who were still struggling. He listened to their stories. He ate with them. He never arrived wearing an expensive suit and surrounded by assistants. He came as Elijah. One afternoon, Curtis looked at him and laughed. "You know what's funny?" Elijah smiled. "What?" "3 years ago, you were sleeping right there." He pointed toward the corner. "Now you've got your name on buildings." Elijah laughed. "Money changes things." Curtis shook his head. "No, you changed." Elijah looked around the room. "Maybe." Curtis smiled. "No, definitely." Meanwhile, Maya and Elijah's marriage grew stronger. They eventually held the wedding reception they never had. But instead of spending millions on a glamorous celebration, they turned the event into a fundraiser for the foundation. The same church where Maya had once been abandoned was filled again. This time, there was no empty altar. There was no missing groom. There were no tears of humiliation. There was laughter, music, food, and hundreds of people celebrating a love story nobody could have predicted. Maya stood beside Elijah as Father Michael looked at the crowd. "1 year ago, we witnessed one of the strangest weddings this church has ever seen." Everyone laughed. "Today, we are not celebrating how they met. We are celebrating everything they have built since that day." Maya looked at Elijah. "I never imagined this." Elijah smiled. "Neither did I." Father Michael continued. "Sometimes life closes one door so that we can finally notice another one standing open." The guests applauded. Maya took Elijah's hand. "You know something?" "What?" "If Daniel hadn't left me," Elijah smiled, "we probably wouldn't be standing here." Maya shook her head. "I used to think that was a tragedy. And now?" She looked around the room. "Now I think it was redirection." Elijah kissed her hand. "That's a beautiful word. It's the truth." Later that evening, Maya and Elijah stood outside the church, watching the guests leave. Father Michael joined them. "You two have changed this community." Maya smiled. "We just wanted to help people." Father Michael shook his head. "That's how change always begins." Elijah looked at the church. "I spent 3 years sitting in that last pew, believing my life was over." Maya leaned against him. "And now?" He smiled. "Now I know that sometimes God allows us to lose what we think we need, so we can discover what we actually need." Maya looked at him. "And what do you need?" Elijah answered without hesitation. "You." She smiled. "Good answer." He laughed. "It's the truth." Years later, people would still tell the story of Maya Thompson and Elijah Brooks. Some called it impossible. Some called it reckless. Others called it destiny. But Maya always described it differently. Whenever someone asked her how she could marry a man she had met on the same day her first wedding was canceled, she would smile and say, "I didn't marry a stranger. I married the character he showed me when he had nothing to gain." And whenever people asked Elijah why he had risked everything by trusting Maya, he would say, "Because she loved my wife when she didn't know who I was, and she loved me when she thought I had nothing." Their foundation eventually helped tens of thousands of people. Their medical centers provided treatment for families who had nowhere else to turn. Their addiction recovery programs gave people second chances. And every year, on the anniversary of their unexpected wedding, Maya and Elijah returned to the same church. They always sat in the last pew, the same pew where Elijah had once sat alone. One year, Maya asked him, "Do you ever wish things had happened differently?" Elijah looked at her. "No, not even the pain?" He shook his head. "I would never wish for Renee to die. I would never wish for you to be abandoned. But I also know that I can't rewrite the past." He took her hand. "I can only choose what I do with the life I have now." Maya smiled. "That's what you taught me." "What?" "That losing something doesn't mean losing everything." Elijah kissed her forehead. "And you taught me that sometimes the person who walks away from you is simply making room for the person who will stay." Maya laughed softly. "You know what?" "What?" "I think we accidentally became philosophers." Elijah laughed. "I was a finance guy. And now?" "Now I'm a husband." Maya smiled. "My favorite job you've ever had." They stood together beneath the evening sky, holding hands. Behind them was the church, where their story had begun with heartbreak. In front of them was everything they had built together. Maya had once walked into that church believing her future had disappeared. Instead, she walked out with a second chance. Elijah had once sat in that church believing his life was finished. Instead, he walked out with a reason to live again. And perhaps that was the real lesson of their story. Sometimes rejection is protection. Sometimes endings are beginnings, wearing painful disguises. Sometimes the person who leaves you creates space for the person who will never abandon you. And sometimes, the greatest love story begins on the day you thought your life had completely fallen apart. So if you're watching this, and you're going through a painful season, remember Maya and Elijah. Don't assume that because one door closed, your story is over. You may simply be standing in front of the door that leads to the life you were always meant to live. Thank you for watching Nenya Folktales. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Nenya Folktales, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss our next emotional story. And remember, every story teaches us something. Betrayal can reveal character. Heartbreak can lead to healing. And sometimes the person you thought was your biggest loss becomes the reason you discover your greatest blessing. Until our next story, stay safe, stay hopeful, and never give up on your happy ending. Haas.